I've definitely spent the last 8 years really working hard in the food tech scene.
I mean, what exactly, and how does exactly you drive into this and with such a diverse accusation?
So we acquired that credibility and trustworthiness, and then we started growing from there.
Can you walk us through, how the strategy compared with the traditional entry methods? Hello and welcome back to Collaborative Canvas. Today we have an extraordinary guest joining us, a trailblazer in food tech, sustainability and venture capitalist. I'm excited to introduce Petko, a visionary entrepreneur with powerful commitment to sustainable growth and emerging market trends. As the founder and the CEO of CHEFIN, Petko has led this food tech marketplace startups to new height. With recent launches in the US and the Hong Kong, his expertise goes on for beyond building businesses. He's also an active investor through his family offices and the global managing director of Catalyst Ventures. Over the past 8 years, Petko has established himself as a leading mentor in the Australian food tech scene, guiding entrepreneurs through programs like Food Labs, New Wave Female Founders, Startup Boot Camps, Techstars, and many more like that. He's also an entrepreneur in residence with the Academy of Entrepreneurs, where he's shaping the next generation of innovators. Today, we'll be exploring his journey, his insights on sustainable growth, and the strategies he's using to drive CHEFIN as an international success. Petko, welcome to the show, and it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Ankesh. We've known each other, I think, for 15 years almost. So it's nice to sort of reconnect in a very different shape and form to what we used to do in our corporate lives. I've definitely spent the last 8 years really working hard in the food tech scene, raising funds and expanding my business across the world. At the moment, we are aiming to launch in Europe early next year and looking at launching in France most likely first. But it's just very, very interesting time for us, and we've really grown a lot. It's been amazing to actually build my own venture and be able to pour all my sweat and tears and happiness and sort of get all the rewards basically out of it as well. It's got its own challenges and its own sort of like ups and downs, but it's really really an amazing experience.
Indeed, Petko. I mean, I think it's a pleasure to have you on the show, and ever since I've been talking to you, there's always, a new thing which is going on with CHEFIN, and, you've been engaging yourself across the globe. And to our listeners, since we are starting up with more conversations in this episode, you don't forget to join the Collaborative Canvas community. Subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode if you enjoy what we are bringing to you, and that you can actually spread the inspirations together. So let's dive into the topic with Petko. Petko, there are few things which I was kind of aligned with when I saw your profile. You've been doing a lot of strategic acquisitions, and you've acquired a lot of both competitors and the unique assets, like dating websites in Hong Kong for CHEFIN, and these are certain decision-making process. I mean, what exactly, and how does exactly you drive into this and with such a diverse acquisition? Because I remember we come from a market research background. So how do you assess a company's value beyond these financials? And, what is that, made you come into, becoming in such a global entrepreneur?
I think there's a few things to really look at here. One is the enterprise value of a company and enterprise value of a tech startup versus a small business, sort of like you can call it a boring business if you want, and a mom and pop's business. And then the other thing is really the credibility value. So these are sort of probably the two main things that I'm looking at is a small business acquiring other small businesses, right? Even though we're a startup, we're still quite small on the scale of Microsoft and sort of Apple and the tech giants, where they tend to usually look at IP. They look at workforce, IP, particular market penetration, for example. I mostly look at credibility value and my ability to actually launch very quickly into new markets. So these are sort of the two things that I really look at. Um, and it's really important to sort of evaluate the business from a perspective of what we can actually get from it and how we can get that credibility value. So for example, in the US, we struggled for like over a year to actually get credibility and sort of get traction within the market. We did a lot of marketing. We acquired a lot of sort of visitors through the website, a lot of interest. We grew our attention, but we weren't able to actually convert. And that was mainly really related to the fact that we didn't have credibility. So by acquiring a competitor, acquiring a smaller sort of company, like a more traditional bar style business in Los Angeles, we managed to acquire their reviews, we acquired their customer base and their contracts, which from a value perspective have not been huge, but they gave us a footprint and gave us this credibility value, if you want to call it, or credibility sign, a tick box which says, hey, this is a local business. It's got purchases. It's got reviews in this area. We can trust these guys. They have much better offers. It's a much better process, much better experience to work with them. And now they are credible and trustworthy. So we acquired that credibility and trustworthiness, and then we started growing from there. And from one state being able to do this, and also doing like a launch event. We did a launch event with the Australian government, which also adds credibility. That really helped us to actually be able to grow our business, expand within the contracts and the networks that we acquired, plus be able to actually get new customers and convert some of these visitors and online leads into customers as well. So that was sort of my real goal, and that's what I look at. That's what I've been looking at in Hong Kong, including customer base. So to be honest, every business has a little bit of a different value, right? You just got to be open-minded. At the end of the day, we are underdogs and we are making underdog decisions. We need to bet against the majority. If it was really no-brainer acquisition, right? Someone else would have purchased it. So why would you purchase something that is small and cheap? What can you get out of it? Is it a customer list? So in Hong Kong was mainly about customer list and an operator on the ground. So can I get an operator on the ground that I can trust, that speaks local language, looks like local people, and helps me to actually acquire customers there, understands the local audience, right? So these things are very important as well. And that's what's been driving that part. And the other acquisition that I am looking at in Europe was also, it was more, it is really interesting situation, actually. It was like our competitor in France went underbelly, basically, so they listed with the liquidator. And for me, this is like straight away a green sign, like, yes, there's a market gap. I can purchase their assets from a liquidator very cheaply, and I can get access to their database, customer database, chef database, platform supplier database, and I can fill that market gap with better system, better pricing, better product. I just need to basically just do that investment and move really fast, faster than someone else. And we have that ability to make very quick decisions.
And you've been talking about market penetrations and you've been talking about different market segments altogether. You've made decisions on diverged market as well, and portfolio of businesses as well, from food tech to a dating website. At the end of the day, I hear that you're collecting databases. Before we dive into the next question, which is more related to why different markets and why different acquisition, I wanted my audience to know, what is CHEFIN?
CHEFIN is a private chef booking platform, basically. We're like open table, menu lock, or sort of, you can call it Uber Eats for private chefs. So instead of getting a meal, instead of getting a table in a restaurant, you actually get the chef to bring that experience to you. So they'll bring all the food, they bring all the service, and they serve you in your own home.
So that's what CHEFIN means. And now I think CHEFIN is more into, I think, 4 markets all over the world, if I'm not correct, if I'm correct, actually.
Yeah, correct. We're in Brazil at the moment. We launched in April this year. In June, we launched officially in the US after around 18 months of sort of struggling to get traction. But in June 2023, we actually started getting bookings, which is amazing. And we launched last year, sort of towards the end of last year in Hong Kong. and we are in Australia, New Zealand, you can start a separate market. We sort of tend to consider it as part of Australian market, Australia and New Zealand together. And we're looking next at expanding into Singapore from an Asia perspective, Asia Pacific, and then France in Europe, and next Canada, hopefully, in the US, once we have French in North America. Once we have the US and France, then it makes sense for Canada because we can do both languages.
Oh, best of luck for that. When we're talking about the market penetration overall, when you assess these markets that you probably have to step into China or Singapore or Hong Kong or even France and Germany that you mentioned, can you walk us through how the strategy compared with the traditional entry methods? What unique advantage or challenges you actually bring from the local presence?
I think for me, the most important thing is when I evaluate market, I probably like market research, right? I look at the signals that would drive my business forward. And for me, it's really top restaurants in the area, like either Michelin rated, most expensive, most popular, highest rated, places and establishments where people will travel from around the world to visit. What is the price point? And then the other thing is I look at the number of millionaires and the top echelon of the population in that market. So I would do research in that sort of aspect that allows me to understand what is the top echelon, what is the top paying part of the market, how much they can afford, what is the size of it, and how much they are currently paying, what is the sort of average rate of payments, basically in that area for like top restaurants. And then from a sort of supply and costing perspective to make sure that I can actually make profit in this market, which we are very lucky that we come from one of the most expensive countries, Australia. So it's quite easy to make profit in other countries if you can make profit in Australia. Seems like really difficult here. But we look at to ensure just to double check that we can actually make profit and that the pricing model we have is correct. We look at what is the wages, the top restaurants' wages for the chefs from a supply perspective, and then what is the average cost of ingredients and groceries within the market. So these are sort of the indicators we look, and we stack them up and look at green, 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 go. Green, green, red, maybe not. We sort of like rated it from that perspective. To give you an example, like, I mean, Asia is a very interesting market, right? We talk about countries in Asia, but it's city driven. It is a city-driven market where you look at Singapore, you look at Dubai, you look at Philippines, but you don't look at Philippines as a whole country. You just look at Manila, and then you look at Jakarta. And these are like really your markets that you're going to enter and where you can grow your business. Like trying to do something in the whole of Philippines is ridiculous amount of resources, ridiculous amount of money you got to invest. And your return on investment is going to be peanuts. You better acquire Singapore, Jakarta, Manila and Kuala Lumpur, and then just forget about the rest. Basically, it's pretty much the same in Australia. We really look at the capital cities, and where the top of the population works. And then at the end of the day, if you have really good reputation within the capital city, if you get really good reputation within the top market, it's very easy to expand, and it's very easy to send someone traveling to a remote location 3 hours away from from Manila in the Philippines, right? Because the client is going to pay, they're going to have the money, and they don't really care. Like they even fly chefs. We've flown chefs from Sydney, for example, to China to do events. So this kind of things can happen. But it's really about, I'm a big believer of capturing the top of the market. You want to capture the top of the market, the ones that can pay the top dollar and that can really value the quality of the service you're providing. And then it becomes an inspirational style of service.
And you're flying chef from Sydney to China. That's definitely, a demand pouring in across. I thought you probably be picking people from one location and sending it to the same location, as in, within the Chinese vicinity that you probably be doing it. That's like sending one person to another country altogether. That's part of the whole deal.
Yeah, we do. And we do in the US. It's very popular, actually, interstate. We fly chefs between different states, depending on what the consumers want. And in particular, like in smaller areas, like we're in Phoenix in Arizona, there is less availability of top. That's what I was telling you about, looking at the top restaurants. at the amount of rich people or millionaires living in the area, the top paying or top charging restaurants, and the wages. So when you look at all of these things, you can get really good picture of what the market is looking like. For example, in Phoenix, in Arizona, with chefs, New York, right? New York and Los Angeles and San Fran. And the customers there have very high income, very low choice of availability of amazing restaurants. So they would actually spend the money and pay for someone top dollar to come from a 2, 3 Michelin star restaurant background from New York, fly into Phoenix in Arizona and actually deliver a dining experience. So that's sort of like the way of thinking, if that makes sense. And Hong Kong is a very like Hong Kong and Singapore and Dubai are very sort of good examples from that perspective that people there can have like ridiculous amounts of money and they are prepared to pay top dollar for something that they want and no one else can get, like unique dining experiences.
And Petko, you mentioned about acquiring a company in France. A lot of cases, and in fact, to understand from the context, you mentioned there was a very small company, and kind of to enter into a market, it becomes easier for finding that kind of a company. Do you consider this as a, boring business opportunity, where implying the strategies with high ROI potential, for the startups, does this actually becomes a key benefit for the approach? That especially that new companies who seeking quick creditability and revenue stability, you reach out to them, you acquire them, you make them high profitable business, acquire the databases. And does it really work that ways, or is that a different, or should we call it as an underrated strategy?
It definitely works really well. It's definitely underrated, but it's getting more popular. I know at least two different companies in the world that do it at the moment. One in the US, one in London, and one in Sydney in Australia. They build a portfolio of boring companies and scale them up. The company in the UK I met through just on LinkedIn actually, and they're very interesting. They've invested in a bunch of very boring companies. Like one of them is a cleaning service, right? You take a window cleaner, actually. They've taken a window cleaner and empowered the window cleaning business to actually build a software for window cleaners. So now they've built a SaaS platform where the window cleaners can actually manage their workload. They have a scheduling app similar to Uber where you can see your route, all the houses you need to clean. And every day you just open your map in the morning. You see, I need to do 20 jobs today. You go and do all the 20 jobs without any interaction with humans. And then you get paid at the end of the day. And it's really amazing, right? It's a very sort of boring, old school style business, but it's been sort of revolutionized, if you want to call it, or digitized through a mobile app. And the cleaner gets better service. They get a better sort of feeling. It's much easier for them to do their job. It's all scheduled and organized. They don't have to chase invoices. They don't have to deal with customers. And then the client doesn't need to do anything. They just make an order. It's all scheduled. All the payment is done through their account, etc. So it makes a lot of sense. And it's a really good business because people need it. I mean, at least there. I don't know how it is where you are. And in Sydney, we don't tend to do much window cleaning. But in London and in the UK, apparently it's very common because you've got old houses, you've got lots of windows. It's hard to reach it. You couldn't be bothered doing it yourself. And you've got the money to pay someone $50 and they go around, do 10 houses, $50, it's already $500. Basically. So it's sort of like a no-brainer thing. Really good opportunity. And the other thing to really keep in mind is that we have a very large baby boomer sort of generation that is retiring and wanting to get out of business, right? This is across the world everywhere, from India to the UK to Hong Kong, China, Australia, the US. And these guys have some really nice, successful, and super boring businesses, from fixing tires, from fixing cars, from detailing cars, even maybe cleaning cars or franchises like selling Pizza Hut, whatever it is. All of these little boring businesses have made their money for their whole life, right? Like it might be 20 years, a guy would have made 200K a year. It's not crazy amount of money, but making 200K a year profit in your own little business for 20 years in a row, it's a really successful and really nice business, which you can acquire. You can merge up with a couple of other businesses in together, and then you can scale to the next level.
When it comes to understanding the nuances of these businesses and finding out a database around it, I mean, it's not that easy. You find these people, and then I'm sure you must have been doing a lot of research. And I think the edge of it, I see that you're building creditability through this community roots. How important do you believe it is for any startup to acquire a community rooted businesses to gain creditability? And if you can give me some example where CHEFIN actually got benefited out of these, local impacts.
I think it's really important that you know what you're doing within that field, right? As you know from our market research background and our market research brain, you got to be really deeply routed and understand that problem. If you don't understand the problem, it's very easy to look at the wrong signals and make decisions in the wrong way. Because you got to really be very deep into that field. Like I wouldn't go and purchase medical centers. One of our venture funds, one of our investors actually loves medical centers, and they purchase medicals and physiotherapy. Right? Like it's really good money, and from what they've said, it's really good return on investment. They turn them around, merge them in together, and put them under the same branding, streamline processes, etc. But I can't do it because I don't know anything about medical centers. So you got to be really good at what what you're doing and really specialize in that field, to be able to actually understand and know what they're doing, whether it's from a community perspective. 100%. I think I specialize in the food tech space and look at food businesses. But being able to actually acquire local food business with local customers makes a huge difference because people want to purchase from local people. They actually care about that. They care about the connection. They care about the sort of the credibility, if you want to call it, but it's also about the locality of the business. Instead of buying from someone in another city or another state or another country, they want to feel like they're buying from a local business that is around the corner. They know where their address is, they know where their location is, and they may have known the people that used to work there, right? So from that perspective, it's a huge advantage. And in countries like France, for example, that makes a huge difference. And in the US, I underestimated how important it is, even in the US, to be honest. I thought of us being from Australia, that we would have at least the basic credibility as another sort of American aligned country, similar political system, democratic country, etc. I had sort of the perception that it would be very easy to enter the US and we'll be credible from day one, but it wasn't the case. We actually were much more credible when we had a local business, with a local footprint and local reviews on like Yelp and Google My Business and stuff like that, and Apple My Business and Bing Maps and stuff like that. So this thing made a huge difference. In France, it's even more important because people really want to buy local things. It's a very European thing where we're sort of set into our mindset of we only want to purchase from local businesses that are from France, made in France. We have all of these labeling and all of these rules in Europe as well that actually enable you as a consumer to be able to make these choices. So that's why we're looking at it. And yeah, it makes a huge difference for us.
Nice. I mean, I couldn't disagree anymore because I think that local impact, local touch definitely helps a lot of business gain their momentum in the long run. And you rightly mentioned, $200,000 a year and then that too up to 20 years. Of course, there would have been an incremental cost to it, incremental gain to it. People would have been sticking to a larger amount of time to their business. And then when they sell it, it becomes easier for any entry level or new venture to, happen in that country, which also gives you some credibility to, start up your own stuff and, will let people also know who you are and where you're coming from. So thank you so much, Petko, for sharing your insights and experience with us today. It has been inspiring to hear, how your journey, the strategies behind CHEFIN and its growth and its commitment and to sustainability and impacting, how impactful your mentorship has been. You have truly provided our listeners with invaluable perspective on building sustainable community-rooted business. That's not easy. And specifically when it comes to a food tech space and beyond, you have been pretty diversified. And to everyone tuning in, thank you for joining us on the Collaborative Canvas. If you found today's conversation as insightful as we did, then don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on future episodes. And be sure to like and especially comment because I bring you different perspectives of the business. And, this one is pretty unique. So I need more comments. And if you can share this to help us reach other and more listeners, that'll be awesome and that'll be great. Let's keep growing the community and learning from exceptional leaders like Petko. Until next time, keep collaborating and stay inspired when I see you in the next episode. Thank you so much. Thank you, Petko.